Hey Stat Rollers, Bill with Roll Stats, and today we're going to go through part 2 of our unboxing and review of the Tom Moldvay 1981 Basic Dungeons & Dragons pink box set. Today I thought we would run through the rules as written for character creation, and we'll go ahead and create a character. I feel that people are sometimes afraid to roll 3d6 down the line and create their character. I think it's actually kind of fun, and I want to run through the exact process that's laid out in the Moldvay rule set in terms of character creation, and we'll see what we come up with. This could be fun. On page 5, B5 of the basic rule set itself, there's a set of rules that you need to follow in order to create a character, and I think that we're going to go through these one by one and see what we end up with. If you look under how to create a player character, the very first rule is on a blank sheet of paper, write down the names of the 6 player character abilities: strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, and charisma, in that order. Or if a Dungeons & Dragons character record sheet is being used, the 6 names will already be printed on the sheet, and it may be useful to glance at the example character record sheet hereafter on page B14 to see the form that it takes. So I actually went online and I printed up some old school player character record sheets, some player character record sheets from BX that match the same style that's included in the rulebook. I found these at Jasper's Rantings. I'll put the link to Jasper's Rantings down below, the link to where you could download these if you're interested in them yourself. I just thought it'd be easier than writing it out on notebook paper, but to be honest, back in the day, we always just wrote it out on notebook paper, and that was what we used. We didn't actually have player character record sheets, and the internet really didn't exist, and yeah, we couldn't find these online as easily as we can now, so we just did it on notebook paper. But just to save time and to make it easier, I thought I would use these. So step 2 in character creation is to roll 3d6 for a result of 3 through 18 for each ability, and put the result in pencil next to the name of the ability. So you put it in pencil because you can't actually adjust these ability scores after the fact. You can adjust your prime requisite based on the class that you choose by reducing a non-prime requisite ability score by 2 and increasing your prime requisite by 1. So I'll be rolling, and depending on which class I choose, I'll be able to adjust my prime requisites after the fact. So that's actually another good point. You roll your ability scores first, and there's a reason for that, and I just want to go through that really quickly. You roll your ability scores first because your ability scores are going to determine your class. In most modern gaming systems, you pick the class that you want to play before you start rolling. In other words, I want to be a fighter, or I want to be a druid, or I want to be a paladin, or I want to be a bard, what have you, and then you fill in your ability scores that would best fit that character build. That is not the way that you did it in BX. At least that's not strictly how you did it rules as written, because you are rolling 3d6 down the line. Let's say you chose, before you rolled your ability scores, that you wanted to be a fighter, and you ended up with a 3 strength. So that wouldn't be good. Generally, though, if you ended up with a 3 strength, a 3 ability score, it was a hopeless character, and there are actually rules within BX for hopeless characters. But you get what I'm saying. Like, let's say you rolled a 10 for your strength, and you wanted to be a fighter. You probably wouldn't be the most effective fighter in the world. So rules as written, what you would do is roll your ability scores first, and let's say you had a really high strength. Then you would be a fighter. Or let's say you rolled a high strength and a high intelligence. You would be an elf. But let's say you rolled a really low strength, but you rolled a high intelligence. Well, then you would be a magic user. If you rolled a really high wisdom and a really low intelligence, you would be a cleric. Your ability scores determined the class that you were, as opposed to the other way around. In other words, you didn't say, I want to be a cleric, and then fit your ability scores to make that build. It was dependent on the dice gods, what sort of character you wanted to play. I know that that is not ideal for most people, because most people have a character build in mind that they want to play. However, what I will say is it does solve the problem of nobody ever wants to play a cleric. Guess what? If you roll a high wisdom, you're playing a cleric. Or nobody wants to play a first level magic user. Well, guess what? If you have a high intelligence, you're playing a first level magic user. And yes, you're absolutely correct. This could end up with some really weird party combinations. 2 clerics in a single party, or 3 fighters and a magic user, or 4 thieves, or however those ability scores rolled out. If it wasn't a long-running campaign, if it was just a one-shot or a one-off, generally we would just play that. However, what I will say is there were ways around it. Even then, right? Like even then, back in the 80s when we were playing, there were different ways to roll. So for example, if you had a specific character build in mind, what you would do is you would roll your ability scores, but not put them next to the specific attributes. You would roll all of your ability scores, mark them on a sheet of paper, and let's say you wanted to be a fighter, you would then take that and assign the highest ability score to a fighter. Also, we would allow for 3d6 and re-roll ones, right? So like if you rolled a 1, you could re-roll the 1. Some people even allowed 4d6, drop the lowest. That was a little less common, but people did allow it. This allowed you to choose the character that you wanted to choose without being hamstrung. But for today's exercise, we're just going to go 3d6 down the line, and I'm going to see what sort of character I end up with. This is going to be actually kind of fun. So here we go, 3d6. Let's see what I end up with. This is going to be strength. Oh! Oh! See, that is the power of 3d6. The dice gods sometimes smile on you. That is an 18. That is, you just saw it. You just saw that I rolled 3 6s. So, for my fighters, well, I'm assuming he's going to be a fighter. He might be an elf if I roll a high int as well. Or I could be a dwarf if I roll a really high constitution. But what I'm saying is, that is an 18. When you roll, that's what comes up. Sometimes the dice gods smile on you, sometimes they don't. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 18 for my strength for my fighter. Or, well, we're assuming that he's going to be my fighter. He might be something else. Who knows? We're going to just see what goes. So let's go again, and this one is going to be intelligence. So that's a 12 for intelligence. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. A 12 for intelligence is not bad. He might actually end up being an elf. We'll see. So let's go again. And this time we're going to roll for wisdom. Here we go. And that's also a 12. A 12 for wisdom. This character is actually shaping up pretty well. This is not going to be a bad character. I think I might keep him. Let's go. Let's roll again and see what we come up with. And that's a 9. So I have a 9 dex. Clearly, he's not going to be a thief. He's not very dexterous. But to be honest with you, 18 strength, 12 intelligence, 12 wisdom, and 9 dexterity. So far, this character is shaping up really good. Let's roll for constitution now. Let's hope for a high constitution, and this could be a dwarf maybe. Or, quite frankly, just a high constitution for a fighter is good. So that's a 13. That's a 13 con. I'm telling you, this character, the dice gods are smiling. This is not going to be bad at all. Finally, this is going to be charisma. Now, we all know that I am a very charismatic guy, but let's just see how charismatic my character is going to be. That is an 11. So he's not super charismatic, but he's not uncharismatic either. I'm looking at these numbers. I'm 18 strength, 12 intelligence, 12 wisdom, 9 dexterity, 13 constitution, and 11 charisma. I could play around with these. Like, if I wanted to go with an elf, I could reduce my wisdom and raise my intelligence, which would be a prime requisite. But quite frankly, I think I'm just going with a straight fighter on this guy, right? Like, I think this is going to be our fighter. And to be honest with you, I think he's going to do pretty well. Like, I'm actually very, very pleased with how the character is shaping up so far. So, step 1, we had our character sheet. And step 2, we rolled our dice, and I rolled them right on camera. You guys saw my natural 18, which I'm still tickled about. Like, that's awesome. This character is going to be great. I'm keeping this character. And we should all start a BX game, and I'm going to keep this character. I'm going to go ahead and name him right now. His name is Solomon Blood. I love this guy. And so my new fighter is Solomon Blood. Yes. That is that's our new fighter, Solomon Blood. He's gonna be awesome. He's really gonna be freaking phenomenal. Next step would be to read the sections on character abilities on page B6 and character classes on pages B9 and 10, and choose a class which best suits your character. So again, like we just talked about in BX, you didn't go in with a specific character build in mind. Your ability scores determined what your character was going to be. My ability scores, to me, this says fighter. So, fighters are human who train for battle. It is their job to fight monsters and to protect the weak members of a party. Great heroes such as Hercules were fighters. That sounds pretty good to me. Like, I think I'm cool with that. The prime requisite for a fighter is strength. Strong fighters can kill monsters more easily with their powerful blows. A strength score of 18 or greater will give the fighter a bonus on earned experience points. Whenever your prime requisite is above a specific number, you get bonus on earned experience points, which helps you level up faster, and it's why your ability scores determine your class and not the other way around. So restrictions. Fighters use 8-sided dice to determine their hit points. In addition to this advantage, they may use any weapon, wear any type of armor, and may use shields. So essentially, you know, I'm a badass. Solomon Blood is a freaking badass, and he's just going to dominate. That's pretty much how it is, right? He's a frontline guy, he's a tank, he's going to kill some people. Special abilities. Though they have no special abilities like special sight or bonuses, fighters are very powerful characters. Their greater endurance, more hit points, strong armor, many weapons, and great strength make them a necessary part of every party of adventurers. You need someone to stand on the front line and take the blows and to deal out damage. That's what the fighter is there for, and that's what he's meant to do, and so that's what we're going to be. Solomon Blood is going to be a frontline, in-your-face, ass-kicking, taking name kind of fighter. Like, I already envision him. That is who he is. We have determined that without question. Like, this Solomon is a fighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and on my sheet, I'm going to fill in fighter for my class. So Solomon is definitely a fighter. Part 3, we read through the character abilities and the character classes. We ended up choosing fighter. Part 4, write down any special abilities your character possesses because of the class. For future reference, keeping in mind that your character is first level, magic users, blah, 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 blah. We just found out like fighters don't have any special abilities other than really just the ability to kick ass and take names. So that, you know, I'm not going to write that down on my sheet, but in my mind, I know that that's what I'm going to do. So then, step 5 is going to be read the section on ability scores adjustments, page B6, and then adjust your character's ability scores if so desired. So again, what I was telling you was you could adjust down an ability score to raise another one. So for example, what I could do is I could lower my intelligence. Intelligence may be lowered by fighters, dwarves, halflings, thieves, and clerics in order to raise a prime requisite of their class. Wisdom may be lowered by magic users, fighters, dwarves, elves, halflings, and thieves in order to raise a prime requisite for that class. So theoretically, if my strength were lower than 18, let's say my strength were 16, I could actually take 2 away from intelligence and 2 away from wisdom, bringing my intelligence to a 10 and my wisdom to a 10, and I could raise from 16 to 18 my strength. But I have an 18 strength, so I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely not a min-maxer. I'm absolutely not a power gamer. I'm fine with my fighter. I'm fine with Solomon as he is, and I'm going to play him as is, and to be honest, he's going to be awesome. I don't need to have the optimal build. I don't need to min-max. I don't need to number crunch. I don't need to find every advantage that I possibly can to make sure that my character is unbeatable. It's just silly. So I'm just going to play Solomon as he is, and he's going to be awesome. So let's go on to the next step. Next step is going to be to consult the table of bonuses and penalties on page B7, and make a note of the results next to each exceptional ability score. So this is where I'm going to apply my bonuses or my penalties. It doesn't look like Solomon's going to end up with any penalties at all, and I didn't even have to min-max. I just rolled. Dice God smiled on me. So let's actually go ahead and do that now. On page B7, prime requisite score. If your prime requisite score is between 16 to 18, you get plus 10% to earned experience points. Every time my DM assigns me experience points, I get an additional 10%, plus 10% to that, which is actually pretty huge. So, I mean, that's not a little thing. For my strength score, I'm going to check my strength score on the chart on page B7, and with an 18, I have plus 3 to hit damage and opening doors. So I'm going to say plus 3, and I'm going to put 18 in my actual spot, and I'm going to erase 18 here because it doesn't need to be here, because clearly because I'm keeping that, right? Like why would I not? For intelligence, I have an intelligence of 12, so 9 to 12 reads and write native languages, usually 2. I get no penalty, but I get no bonus. I read and write my native languages. For here, right now, I'm going to put common. And that'll be the language that I speak. That's the language that I know. And I could have an alignment language, which we haven't chosen an alignment yet, but alignment languages are stupid. And to be honest, I'm just not going to use alignment languages. So common is going to be the language that I speak. I have a wisdom of 12. Wisdom of 12 gives me no negatives. I'm not getting any additional benefit from my wisdom at all. So I'm going to mark that in there. My dexterity, I will have no adjustment as well. No bonus, no penalty for dex. From 9 to 12 is simply no adjustment. No missile fire adjustment, no armor class adjustment, and no initiative adjustment. So I'm just flat in dexterity as well. And then for my constitution, I have a 13, which is actually going to give me a bonus. With a 13 constitution, I get +1 to my hit points. So every time I roll for hit points, including first level, we're going to roll for hit points on first level. We're not getting max. We're going to actually go by the rules, and we're going to roll and see how many I get. Whatever that number is, I get to add +1 to that. So I'm going to go ahead and mark my +1 there. And then finally for charisma, my charisma is 11. I get no adjustment to reactions. It is flat. My maximum number of retainers is going to be 4, and the morale of my retainers is going to be 7, which is standard, right? Like, that's no bonus, that's no penalty. Essentially, this is just flat. So, as it shapes up, my fighter, Solomon Blood, has a strength of 18, which is going to give him a +3 to hit, +3 to damage on melee. Not missile, just melee. And then an intelligence of 12, which is going to leave him flat, and a wisdom of 12, which is going to leave him flat. A dexterity of 9, which is going to leave him flat. A constitution of 13, which is going to give him an additional hit point every time he rolls for hit points, you know, as he levels up, but also at first level. And a charisma of 11, which essentially gives him flat. All in all, really good stats. I'm fine with these stats. I mean, this is a good character. Again, so I rolled 3d6 down the line. I didn't slot them into the ability scores that I wanted, and I ended up with a fighter, but I'm pretty happy with this damn fighter. And I'll also say that these are very playable numbers. These are very, very playable numbers. There's nothing wrong with this character. This is a completely survivable character. You can roll 3d6 and end up with whatever the dice gods give you and still have a playable character. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen every time. Yeah, there are certainly going to be times where you have a hopeless character, but there are also rules within the BX rule set about hopeless characters. So if your DM deems it, you can certainly have a hopeless character and you can roll again. Plus, as I had said earlier, you can roll 3d6 and then just write them off on the side, and you can slot them into the ability score that you want if you want a particular character. I want to play an elf. I want to play a dwarf. I want to play a fighter. I want to play a thief. Whatever it is, as long as your DM allows it, roll 3d6 6 times and then just assign the scores where you want them in whatever ability score you want. There aren't many DMs who are not going to allow that. To be honest, we played that way all the time. If you wanted, specifically if it was campaign play, so if it was going to be a long campaign, or, you know, if you wanted to play a specific build, right? If you wanted to play a thief, then you were allowed to do that. Nobody ever said that you couldn't do that. So our ability scores are now set. As a new character, mark down 0 for the number of starting XP, and for future reference, make a note of the number of XP needed to advance the second level. So let's go ahead and do that now. On the back here, you can see bonus or penalty to experience. I'm going to go ahead and mark my additional 10%. My experience points right now are 0. I have no experience whatsoever. Solomon is a badass, but he's not an experienced badass, at least not yet. Let's reference the chart on page B8 and see how many experience points I need for the next level. And for level 2, to become a warrior, right now I'm a veteran. At level 2, I'll be a warrior. For level 2, I need 2,000 experience points. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. And now our experience is all set. Step 8. Ready? We're on step 8 now. Determine the number of hit points your character has by rolling the appropriate type of hit die as mentioned in the class description. Record the number in the special area marked hit points or HP. In our class description, fighters have a D8. We're going to roll on a D8. We're going to see how many hit points Solomon has. So is he a tank or does he just deal some damage? Because right now, he's going to deal some good damage. He's got a +3 to hit and he's got a +3 to damage on any melee that he does, which is no joke, right? So like Solomon is actually looking good, but let's see if he is truly a tank or if he's a lightweight and just deals heavy damage. So here we go. I'm going to roll my 8-sided die. And we're going to see what happens. That's a 6. It's not, I mean, a 6 is not bad. Because remember, I get a +1 based on my constitution. So Solomon Blood is starting off this game with 7 hit points, which, you know, as a first level fighter, specifically in BX, that is not bad. 7 hit points is not bad at all. I'm totally happy with Solomon Blood so far. I'm really happy about this character. I want to play this character. So let's play some BX. Like, I really want to play this character. We're already at step 9. Our character is coming along really quickly. That was the cool thing about BX as well. Character creation was not this long, drawn-out process where you had to figure out multiple aspects. It was pretty straightforward. There are 14 steps to character creation, and they go really fast, as you can see. So we're already on step 9, which is going to be read the section on character alignment and choose an alignment for your character. Record the alignment next to your character's name. So we talked about this in part 1. BX has it has a 3-point alignment system. Chaotic, it's neutral, and it's lawful. And that's it. There's no moral equivalent to it. It's not the 9-point system. It is only 3 points. And I think, in my mind, Solomon is definitely lawful. Solomon is going to be a hero. He's going to be someone who sacrifices himself for the party. He's going to be a lawful fighter. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to choose lawful and write that down. Lawful is the belief that everything should follow in order and that obeying the rules is the natural way of life. That is how I see Solomon interacting with the world and interacting with the party. And so, I'm going to go ahead and choose that. Whether you're good or whether you're evil, I think that comes out in roleplay. I don't necessarily think that needs to be defined, but again, that's me. You guys know me. I don't like things to be codified. I don't like things to be defined. I like that all to come out in roleplay. I like story to sort of tell that. And so I don't necessarily care if there's just a 3-point system. And to be completely honest with you, I don't even know that alignment is all that important anyway. Again, I do think that roleplay defines a character and not some arbitrary definition that you write down or some arbitrary category or tag that you artificially put on your piece of paper and this is going to define your character. I think however you roleplay your character is what's going to define your character. That's what, are you going to be good or evil? It depends on the actions that you take and the choices that you make. And that's all about roleplay. That's not necessarily about tag. Next up, we're going to equip Solomon, right? We're going to get him some money and we're going to buy him some gear and some weapons and some armor and, because he doesn't want to go out into the world naked. So, step 10 is roll 3d6 and multiply the result by 10. This new number is the total amount of money or gold pieces that your character starts with. Record the amount in a section marked money. I'm going to go ahead and roll 3d6 and we're going to hope the dice gods are still smiling on me. Because really, the more money you have, the better equipment that you can get and the better armor that you can afford. And, it's just good to have cash, generally, in the world, even in the fantasy world. Let's go ahead and roll 3d6, and we'll see how much cash Solomon is going to start out with. That's not bad. That's a 15, right? So that's not bad at all. That's a 15, and that's going to be 150 gold. I'm not going to mark my 150 gold down yet. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start buying stuff, right? And then whatever I have left over, that's what I'll actually mark on my gold. And that brings us to step 11, which is to consult the table of costs of equipment and weapons on page B12 and buy whatever equipment your character desires within the limits of his or her starting amount of gold and class restrictions. So, for example, magic users, can't wear armor and clerics can't use edged weapons and that sort of thing, right? But, I'm a fighter. Solomon's a fighter, so he can buy anything that he wants. So let's go ahead and consult the table. Let's equip Solomon out. Let's pimp him out. I have 150 gold to play with. The first thing I'm going to do is get some armor for Solomon. Solomon wears chainmail armor. I think for sure he feels like he would be a heavily armored guy. He's a lawful sort of knight in my eyes. And so chainmail armor is going to cost him 40 gold, which is going to be quite a bit. But it's okay because he has quite a bit of cash. That still leaves him with 110. So for armor, I'm just going to go ahead and mark down that Solomon has chainmail. And next up, I think we're going to give him a weapon. Solomon's dex is really low, so he's not going to be a ranged fighter at all. He's definitely a melee frontline guy. I think we're going to go two-handed sword. So I'm just going to go ahead and write down two-handed sword. It's going to deal quite a bit of damage, and the fact that Solomon already has a +3 to hit and +3 to damage, he's going to be a really lethal character. He's going to be able to deal out quite a bit of damage. Oh, by the way, the two-handed sword is going to be 15 gold pieces. I still have 95 to spend. I could have gone with a shield and a normal sword. The shield would have given me an addition to my armor class, but I'm okay with my hit points. And to be honest, I'd rather deal out the additional damage as opposed to worrying about taking damage, right? So, again, I think Solomon is a badass, and he's just there to kick ass and take names. And so I think he's going to be a two-handed sword fighter who rushes into the fray and really deals some damage. So now we're going to go ahead and pick up some normal items. I think Solomon is definitely going to have a backpack, which is going to cost him 5 gold and knocks him down to 90. Solomon is definitely also going to have a couple sacks. I think he's going to do 1 small and 1 large. So sack, small, 1 sack, large, 1. Because, you know, Solomon needs stuff to carry it. He's going to go out adventuring and kick ass and take names. And when he gets the loot, he's going to need something to carry it back with, right? So that's going to cost 3 gold. I'm now down to 87 gold. Solomon is also going to want a tinderbox, which is going to be 3 gold. That knocks him down to 84. But he definitely wants a tinderbox that comes in handy to be able to light his torches, which we're going to buy next. So he's going to buy 6 torches, which is going to be 1 gold. That knocks him down to 83. Torches, 6. And he's also going to want some food. Solomon's going to need to eat something while he's out on the road. And he's going to pick up 1 week's worth of iron rations. Standard rations are cheaper, but the iron rations last longer, so you don't have to worry about spoilage and things of that nature. So he's going to get iron rations. And it's going to be 1 week worth, and that's going to be 15 gold. So that's going to knock Solomon down to 68 gold. Solomon's also going to want a wineskin to carry water around in. So that's going to be 1 gold. Which knocks him down to 67. Solomon is going to want some rope. Definitely wants some rope for adventuring with. He's going to get 1 length of 50-foot rope. And that's going to cost him 1 gold, which knocks him down. He's now at 66 gold. He also wants some iron spikes, 12 of them. Those are actually good for spiking open a door so that it doesn't swing shut, or spiking into the ground and then tying the rope onto it if you want to climb down to something. So he is now at 41 gold, and he's going to buy a flask of oil. So 1 flask of oil, because you never know when that's going to come in handy. And the flask of oil is going to be 2 gold, which is going to knock him down to 39 gold. And then the last thing that he's going to buy is going to be a hand-sized steel mirror, which is going to be 5 gold, leaving him with a grand total left over of 34 gold. And he has 1 mirror. And that's it. Solomon is now equipped, and he's equipped very well. So chainmail, 2-handed sword, backpack, 1 small sack, 1 large sack, a tinderbox, 6 torches, iron rations, 1 week's worth, 1 wineskin, 1 length of 50-foot rope, 12 iron spikes, 1 flask full of oil, and a mirror. So now on to step 12. Now that you know the type of armor your character will be wearing, check the armor class table on B12 and write down the number of your character's armor class in the section marked armor class or armor. I'm going to go ahead and flip to page B12, which is essentially the same page as the equipment page. And then you'll see in the lower left-hand side, tells you type of armor. And so chainmail armor without shield is an armor class of 5. Solomon has an armor class of 5, which is not bad. I mean, it's not great. It's not bad. I'm worried more about him dealing damage than I am about him taking damage. So I'm good with the armor class 5 and the hit points of 7. You know, half the fun of the game is that there's some danger involved. If there's no danger involved, the game is boring as hell. You want there to be some danger. You want to be hit by something at some point. You want to be in peril of perhaps losing your life. Otherwise, it's not fun at all, at least in my opinion. We're in the home stretch. There's 2 steps left. So step 13... Oh, this is the fun part, right? So this is the fun part. Step 13 is going to be to find your character's attack. This is going to be the to hit armor class 0. So use the page on B27 and record the scores your character needs to hit the various armor classes. So I'm going to flip over to B27, and this is what I'm saying. It wasn't that hard. You just consulted a table. Yes, I'm going to admit, without THAC0, it is better. It's easier. Ascending armor class is better than descending armor class. But it wasn't that hard. It really wasn't. These are going to be the rolls that I'm going to need for an armor class of 9, and it just goes up across the board. So once you know what this is going to be a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, And to hit armor class 0, I need a 19. Well, I need a 16, because I have a +3 to hit. If I'm swinging with my two-handed sword, I need a 16 to hit armor class 0, and I need a 7 to hit an armor class of 9. Again, Solomon is going to be a badass. He is going to deal some serious damage, without question. He's going to be hurting some folks. I'm really happy with Solomon. I'm keeping this guy. I am keeping this guy. It's completely legal. I have a record. You guys have watched me the whole way creating this guy. He is completely legal, and if any DM questions me, then I'm just going to have them refer to the tape, because I really want to keep Solomon Blood. He's awesome. Let's finish Solomon up. Let's finish this bad boy up. Last step. If you have not already done so, name your character. If any problems have come up while creating your character, double check with the example of character creation on page B13. I have already named my character, so we're done. We don't even have to do that step. Who wants to DM Solomon through a campaign? Somebody should, because I really want to play. I'm not kidding. I really, really want to play Solomon, so someone should DM him through. That's it. We're done. We've just created a very playable and a very, very cool character. I want someone to DM me with Solomon. Someone volunteer to DM Solomon through a campaign in BX. Really, I'm serious. Somebody, one of you stat rollers out there is going to DM a campaign in BX, and I'm going to play Solomon Blood. Because again, it's completely legal. You saw me do this. This is on record. That is character creation in BX. And we followed the rules step by step and completely. It doesn't take that long. It's not that complicated. It's actually pretty quick and simple, and I'm super excited to play this character. Your character doesn't have to be superhuman for you to be excited to play him. Your character doesn't have to be unbeatable for it to be a good D&D experience, right? Like, it doesn't. And honestly, sometimes when the dice gods smile on you and you get a good ability score, like I rolled 3 6s naturally, I got an 18, I got super excited for that. Whereas I think, rolling 46 and dropping the lowest, you end up with characters that are so superhuman that like 18s are like, meh, oh yeah, well, I only have 2 18s. Like, what? What? I like that. That's fantastic. Solomon is going to be awesome because the dice gods smiled on him and they wanted him to survive. It makes it more exciting. It makes it cooler. So I didn't necessarily have a build that in mind when I came into this process, right? Like, I ended up with a fighter. Solomon became a fighter because that's what the dice gods said that he should be, right? The dice gods clearly said Solomon is a fighter. They also said Solomon's a pretty solid fighter. Like, he has no penalties at all, which, in BX, if you didn't end up with a penalty, that was sort of superhuman. That was superhuman. You didn't have anything lower than an 8. That is awesome. I'm just saying this character is going to be really fun to play. Plug, someone out there DM Solomon through a campaign. That is part 2 of my video on the 1981 Basic Dungeons & Dragons pink box set, edited by Tom Moldvay. We ran through character creation today, and I think we created a really awesome character. If you guys enjoyed it, if you found this video valuable, give me a thumbs up. I just like to know that the stuff that I'm creating that you guys are liking, and also it helps me out. Every little thumbs up, every subscription, every share helps grow the channel. I'm really just trying to grow the Stat Roller community. I love this community. I love you guys, and I'm just trying to grow it, right? Like, the more people we can pull into the Stat Roller community, the better. So please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell. You'll get notified of all new videos as they roll out. And as always, much like it did today for Solomon, right? May the dice roll ever in your favor.